All right, we are live. Welcome to Cross Country Talk, episode 1. I'm your host, Brian Hobbs, and on our panel down here on the bottom, we got Rob Hale. Say hello, Rob.
Hello.
Rob is going to be watching the chat for questions, and then we got our guest, Frank Hobbs.
Hello.
Yep. We are live tonight to inspire you to shut off the TV, get off the couch, and go find your own cross-country adventure. We have some great guests lined up for the year, each one having their own unique hobby. Pick one that interests you and get out there and create your own adventure. You can watch our show from now on live every Wednesday night at 5 p.m. Pacific time. All right. If you haven't already, please subscribe and ring the bell to be notified when we go live because you don't want to miss next Wednesday's show. We are going to have on Hobbit or Frank? Who we going to have on next week?
Next week, I believe, is what, 25th?
Yep.
25th, we're going to have Joel Leibelt. He's a metal detecting expert. And he's and he also has a online store where you can buy metal detectors and all the equipment. And he knows his stuff. We've talked to him about it. And in fact, he's got me excited enough. I think I might have to get one. Right. Fish aren't biting. I can go metal detecting.
So that next week's show is going to be another show you guys are just not going to want to miss. All right, Rob, how many people we got on tonight?
Right now we have 6. We have Brent. We have Sandy, and we have Adventure Cycling with Claude.
Nice. So everybody that's watching and that's in our chat, I encourage all of you to jump on the live chat if you're not and say hi. And if you have any questions for our guest tonight, you can ask it right there in the live chat, and we'll try to get it answered for you. Thanks, Brent, for the thumbs up. Okay. So before we start the interview with our guest tonight, I would kind of like to give you guys all an outlook of where our channel is headed in regards to our content. Like I said before, we're looking at having this show every Wednesday night, 5 p.m. Pacific time, and we'll be bringing on guests that hunt, fish, treasure hunt, scuba divers, skydivers, speed flyers, pilots, people that go out bigfooting, overlanding, sailing, RV traveling, OHV riding, and so much more. So, and we will also continue to upload the videos of our family trips with more of a vlogging type style. And we would like to go into the field and film some stories of individuals that we meet out there out on their own unique adventures. I think that would be really cool. I've already met quite a few out there, and I wish I could have got their stories. So, I would like to introduce tonight's guest. I know him well because he's my father, is Frank Hobbs. He is going to be a co-host for the shows to come, and he will be in charge of bringing us the adventure news for the week. Hello, Frank.
Hello, Brian.
So what news do you have for us tonight?
Well, I looked up some things that I thought people would be interested in, and I got some notes here. For anybody that is in aviation or follows any type of aviation, know the name Draco. It's a bush plane that was built by Mike. What's his last name? Paley? Paley. Plane and Pilot magazine dubbed Draco the coolest airplane in the world. Well, unfortunately, after the national championships air races in Reno, outside of Reno Stead Airport, Mike was preparing to take off in Draco, and just as his wheels left the ground, the wind caught him, big gust, and he crashed his plane. So Draco is done. Anybody that follows him, anybody that knows him, we're so sad for him, but he walked away from it without a scratch. His wife was in the plane. She walked away without a scratch. I think she said she broke one nail. So that's not bad. And then he had a good friend that was in the plane with him too. Everybody walked away with no injuries. There's video online to see it. And the cool thing about this guy is he stood right up and said, "It was my fault." He did not try to blame the airplane. He did not try to blame the tower. He said that he made the mistakes that caused that aircraft to crash. Draco has won a lot of competitions. The short, what is it called? Short takeoff and landing competitions. He's pretty famous in the bush pilot community. He's one heck of a pilot. And we will miss Draco. And the best wishes to Mike, his wife. And hope he gets another plane in the air real soon. Item 2 is Gerber out of Portland, Oregon. Not the baby food, but the knife company. They supply a lot of tools to the military. They build knives and scissors and all kinds of bladed items. Well, they announced that during the month of September, 10% of all their online proceeds will go, for the month of September, will go to Team Rubicon, a nonprofit organization that mobilizes veterans for national disaster response. With the hurricane season here, Team Rubicon's going to need the money. So if you're looking at getting yourself a knife, go online at www.gerbergear.com. Buy a knife from Gerber, and 10% of those proceeds are going to go to keep our veterans working on disaster response. So you need a knife? Go to Gerber. Item 3. Dates have been set for the King of the Hammer in 2020, which is pretty exciting. Starting Friday, February 7th, 2020, ending Sunday, February 19th, 2020. Hammertown will open January 31st, 2020. The races that will be occurring during those days will be the Can-Am Motorsport UTV, the Shootout, Everyone's Challenge, Toyo Desert Invitationals, Toyo, yeah, and then how do you pronounce that, Brian? Nitto, Nitto?
Oh, yeah.
Nitto Ultra 4 race, and then the King of the Motors event. More details, when made available, we'll keep you on tabs on it. And what it is the King of the Hammer is a race, desert race. It's off-road racing combined with desert racing and rock climbing. The race is held on Means Lake, dry lake bed at Johnson Valley, California. Hammertown is an RV town that springs up during the event, and it just pretty much springs up overnight. And heads up, it's a dry camp, so there's no hookups. There are tons of websites and videos online where you can go check out King of the Hammers. And if you want more information on it, Google King of the Hammers 2020. X Country Adventures. Yeah, we're planning on being there. So you might be able to look us up and have a conversation. Maybe have something to drink. So that's going to be fun. I think Rob's planning on being there. Oh, yeah. Brian's planning on being there. And I'm planning on being there. So find us. If we might even announce where we're at so you can come and find us. Okay, the next item be item 4. June 1962, 3 men escaped from Alcatraz Federal Penitentiary, a maximum security facility located on an island in San Francisco Bay. Frank Morris, John and Clarence Anglin escaped, leaving no signs of where they went to. Now, you might ask, why are we talking about an escape from Alcatraz 57 years ago? Well, San Francisco has a celebration, and they're celebrating the anniversary of the escape. And on September 10th, officials will be accepting applicants to participate in the 40th annual Escape from Alcatraz Triathlon. Leave it to San Francisco to celebrate the escape of 3 convicted felons. But they have a race. It will take place June 7th, 2020, and is limited to only 2,000 participants. So if you're that kind of person, excuse me, if you're that kind of person, you got to sign up quick. The race consists of 1.5 miles swim from Alcatraz to the shoreline of Marina Green, then an 18-mile bike ride, then an 8-mile trail run. There will be spectator areas at the swap over points between at the swap from the swim to the bike and the swap from the bike to the run, and of course at the finish line. Could be something cool to go watch. Item number 5, the Great Western Trail is open. The Great Western Trail is a north-south long distance multi-use trail. The trail cuts through Montana, Wyoming, Idaho, Utah, and Arizona. So you can now travel from Canada to Mexico on your ATV, on your horse, on your side-by-side, or you can even walk it. There is a bunch of information online, the Great Western Trail. Travel it all at once or a section at a time, but get out there and travel it. I'm looking at giving it a try. It looks like it could be fun. And I believe it's 4,400 and something miles to do that trail. So that could be a lot of fun. Our last item, number 6, a Michigan man becomes the new record holder for brown trout. Hauling in a 40-pound, 6-ounce fish, Missouri Department of Conservation said Bill Babler of Blue Eye became the new record holder after the department verified his catch. The fish measured 41.25 inches long and had a girth of 28 inches. There are photographs online. Check it out. The fish was caught on Lake, now here's a good one, Taneycomo on Wednesday, September 4th. Congratulations, Bill. And if you happen to hear this and want to tell your story to us, get a hold of us. We'll have you on as a guest. And I looked at the pictures, and that is one nice looking fish. So that's all I have on news today. Back to you, Brian.
All right. So if he wants to contact us, our email is in the description down below. Love to hear from him. All right. So thanks for the news, Frank. And now we'll get on to our interview.
Oh, good. I get to talk more?
Yeah.
All right.
So, Frank, you're a man with many adventurous type hobbies in your life.
Yeah.
A skydiver, scuba diver, cross country motorcyclist, off-road OHV rider, paramotor pilot, and a hunter. Did I miss any?
Oh, a bunch of them.
What did I miss?
Shark dives, highway motorcycles.
Yep.
Fisherman, hiker. I don't do too much hiking now, but I did. Anything that can get the adrenaline up, I'm in. Let's do it.
Okay. So out of all these adventures, I think we'll highlight hunting for this episode, if that's okay with you.
Absolutely.
All right. How's our chat doing there, Rob?
Pretty quiet right now.
Pretty quiet?
Yeah.
Okay. So let's start with our first question. I'm sure we all know what hunting is, but just in case we have someone in the audience that isn't quite sure why a person would go out and hunt, can you explain a bit why a person would hunt and what it entails?
Yeah, there are so many different kinds of hunting that you can do, anywhere from a slingshot to a rifle and anything in between. Hunters do their hunt for different reasons. I have even heard of people who do coup hunting. Native Americans, they had a bravery thing that they did, is counting coup. They would charge their enemy and hit them with a stick and then ride away. The coup hunters go after animals, but they don't kill them. What they do is they try to get close enough that they can pull some hair off. And then that little bit of hair they mount on the wall, and that's their trophy. So you can go coup hunting if you're brave enough to sneak up on a bear. You can bird hunt with the shotgun. You can bird hunt with the bow. You can big game animal with the bow. You can shoot squirrels with a slingshot. It's just whatever you want to do. There are also, and I call them hunters, people that go out and get up close to animals with a camera and take their pictures, and that's their trophy. And that's fine. For me, hunting is filling my freezer. That's what hunting's all about for me. It's getting that meat that doesn't have hormones and everything in it. God knows what in there. Good, healthy meat. And that's what hunting is for me.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
We got any questions there from our live chat, Rob?
Yeah, we do. Claude wants to know, what is the biggest deer he has ever shot, and can he tell others about things and respect with that animal he has shot?
Yeah. The biggest deer is mule deer. Of course, they're a big-bodied deer, and a typical mule deer will have 4 points on one side and 4 points on the other side. And by no means, I am not an expert hunter. I just do a lot of hunting. And for people that want to get in, that I know that want to start hunting, get into hunting, I have a Russian friend that asked me to help him. Well, you go out. The biggest one I got, I think, was 34-inch spread. And that's from the outside of one antler to the outside of the other antler. He was pretty tall. And the people that go out with me hunting, when I harvest an animal, I'm not religious. I don't go to church. My church is out in the mountains. But every time that I harvest an animal, I take a moment. I put my hand on the animal, and I think it's just in case there is animal spirits like the Native Americans believe. And I thank that animal for its sacrifice so that I can have food for the rest of the year. And this friend of mine from Russia, since he became a citizen, he wanted me to teach him how to hunt. Well, I found out after a couple years, he does that also.
Yeah, it's something I've always done too. You got to give respect to them.
Yes, absolutely.
Right.
So I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, so if anybody in the audience has any more questions, make sure you throw those out now so we can get to them. Question 2. How long can these trips take for a person?
Oh, that is a good question, because you can walk outside out the door and go hunting for as long as you want, an hour, 2 hours, or you can spend weeks and months on a hunt. I remember one time I was headed into my campsite, and before I even got to the campsite, I harvested a deer, loaded it up in the pickup, turned around, went home. So that was a pretty short one. And I've had 2-week hunts where I harvested nothing. There's a story about older guy. He was in his 70s. It was going to be his last hunt, and he wanted to bag himself a moose. Well, they flew him into this cabin, and it was in Alaska. And in Alaska, you can't hunt the same day you flew in, because they don't want you spotting game with the airplane. So they flew in, they got in the cabin. He gets up early, opens up the door, drinking a cup of coffee, and about 60 yards out of the front door of the cabin is a record bull moose. He grabs his rifle, shoots the moose, wakes up his guide, and there his hunt was done. He didn't even leave the cabin. So it can vary from an hour. It can be a couple weeks, could be a month, whatever you want to schedule it. And we've been on hunts where Rob and I got our deer on the first day. We set up elk camp, took our deer to the butcher, and went right back to camp and hunted elk for the rest of the 10 days. So whatever you want is what I guess is the answer. How much time do you want to spend?
Gotcha.
Got another question here from Claude. He wants to know how many times a year do you get out and hunt?
Constantly. Of course, there are the seasons. So you got to hunt if you get a tag, deer season, elk season. But during the winter, I'm out a lot because I hunt coyotes. And during the spring, we hunt squirrels. Most of my hunting, like I said, is for food. But there are those pest animals that you got to keep the numbers down, like coyotes and squirrels. The squirrels really hurt the farmers. So I'm out all the time shooting.
And a question from Sandy is, when are the seasons?
Around here, archery season starts in August. Muzzleloader starts after that. And then after that, rifle. In fact, I got a deer tag that starts October, somewhere in the middle of October. And then we have elk season in Idaho with Rob and I in November, isn't it, Rob?
Yep,
yeah,
November 1st.
November. So it just depends on what state you are and what location you are and what you're hunting.
Okay. So how does one get into hunting? What is some of the equipment, some knowledge, training, paperwork that one might need?
First thing you're going to need is a hunter safety course. And I think they're required in all 50 states, I believe.
They are now.
Yeah. And that's what you do is you go and you're going to learn the safety, not so much how to hunt, but how to not shoot yourself or shoot somebody else. That's real important. And most states have it set up to where you can do the book work online and then get a hold of Fish and Game, and they have classes for the practical testing. You can do your book work and your testing online and do the practical stuff where you're actually handling a mock gun and crossing fences. After that, it could be tough if you're all by yourself, but most hunters like myself, and I have taken quite a few people out. If you know somebody that is hunting, it's a good deal to get with them and say, hey, could you give me some pointers here? Could you help me out? Because field dressing an animal has to be done right or you can ruin the meat. So if you can find somebody, have them take you out. There's a lot of videos on YouTube. They can't teach you everything, but they can give you an idea. And if you have nobody that hunts and you're still looking for somebody, check with the Fish and Game or Department of Wildlife and see if they have anybody. Another resource, if you've got the money, because sometimes they're expensive, is go on a guided hunt. They have guys out there that you pay them the money to guide you, and they'll teach you what you need to know. I learned from my dad. So that was easy.
And what is some of the equipment that you use on your hunts?
Excuse me. Well, it depends on what you're hunting. My favorite is elk hunting and then deer big game hunting. A pack, and you load the pack up with survival stuff mostly. Way to preserve the meat until you can get it out. Of course, your rifle, some ammunition, layer your clothing, because like in this country, it could be 100 degrees during the day and below freezing at night. And if something happens and you're stuck out there, you don't want to freeze to death. So something to start a fire. So something to protect the meat. Just mostly survival stuff in case something happens, because once you put the animal down, all you need is a knife to field dressing. Binoculars. Got to have the binoculars. What I like to do is I love the outdoors, and some of my best hunts, I didn't harvest an animal, but I was out there for a week sitting on a rock and glassing binoculars, glassing the area and just taking in everything. It's, I said, I'm not religious, but that's my church.
Well, I've heard that you got this cool little trailer that you use as well for your longer hunts.
My toy hauler that I just bought, or my jumping jack?
The jumping jack.
The jumping jack. Yeah, what the jumping jack is, it's there's a tent box, and then a lid goes over it, and you put your four-wheeler, your side-by-side up top, and it's got a high axle on it, so you can get the jumping jack into some really tight spots. And it's a pretty nice little tent setup. And yeah, I've done some hunting on that. But when you get into the winter months, it does get a little cold. So being an old geezer like I am, I just bought myself a toy hauler. So now I can stay indoors when it's cold.
But you can't get in there that far, right?
No, can't get in that far.
Hey, we have another question from Claude, and he wants to know, what is your favorite gun and what kind of hunting do you do with it?
Oh, my favorite gun.
Yeah.
I got a lot of them.
You might have to think here for about 5 minutes.
Yeah. I think right now, I haven't got it yet. But my favorite gun is at my sister-in-law's house. And she's bringing it to me here. Yeah, no, I think I got to go get it because her trip was canceled. But we lost my brother in March. And she went, him and his wife always went to the Elk Foundations and Ducks Unlimited and all these organizations. And it seemed like he always come home with a gun. And I always teased him, I got to go with you so I can win a gun. Well, the first one she went to after we lost my brother, she won a gun. And she decided, I'm giving this to Frank. And I'm going to get a little teary-eyed here, so got to be careful. So I think that's going to be and it's a Winchester 12-gauge shotgun, and I think that's going to be my favorite gun because it's my brother and his wife. It's
going to have a lot of meaning to it.
Yep, yep, absolutely.
Right. All right.
And Claude says he has his granddad's gun, and that's his favorite gun.
Yeah, yeah, the ones that are passed down hold a lot of meaning.
Yeah. Yep.
All right, so what would... yeah, go ahead.
And Sandy says it's there waiting for you.
No.
Yep, can't wait to get it.
Nice.
Thank you, Sandy.
So what would be a rough, bare-bones cost for one to get into the sport at an amateur level, just to get out there and experience it?
Well, again, all depends on what you want to go after. $35 for a wrist rocket. Go shoot squirrels. Or if you want to do big game, you can get a Remington 700 for $600 and get a tent at Walmart for $35, a little camp stove. Just the bare minimums. You don't have to have all the expensive stuff. I've got guns in my gun safe that are a couple $3,000 worth. But I think... And to go a little further on my favorite gun, my second favorite gun after the shotgun that Sandy's given me is a Remington 700, 300 Remington Ultramag. And I think that's my second favorite because I've shot elk with it. I've shot deer with it. I've harvested a lot of animals with it. And the only reason I bought it is I had to outdo my brother. He had one. I had to have one. It's a good caliber, though. It's a good Remington 700 is not that expensive, and it's a good, sturdy, tough gun.
Gotcha.
And the 700 is the make of the gun, and the 300
the model.
Is the caliber.
Yeah, the model. 700 is the model, and 300 Remington Ultramag is the caliber.
Yep.
Okay. So let's say someone's got a whole bunch of money that's just burning a hole in their pocket.
Give it to me.
Right. So at a high dollar cost, if someone wanted to just go all in at a pro level, roughly how much you think?
Well, that's tough because you can get into the tens of thousands of dollars for rifles, but the ones that you're going to buy over the counter, like SCUBA makes a rifle that's couple $3,000, and they have really good luck with them. Hunters that want to do the fancy hunting, the SCUBA is a good one. Also, Christensen out of Utah, they have rifles that are a couple $1,000s, and I have one of each of those, so they are good rifles. And then, of course, the big trailer with the porch, and if you got that much money, give me a call. I'll help you buy all the stuff if I can go hunting with you.
Okay. Cool.
How are we doing there in the chat? Anybody got any more questions?
As of right now, no.
Okay.
And earlier, I didn't give a shout out to Luther 900 has been on. I don't know if he's still here or not. But
Oh, Luther got on.
yep.
Hey, Luther.
Not sure if he's still here. That was a little bit ago that he was on here.
So, Frank, what got you into the sport, and at what age?
I was out deer hunting and pheasant hunting and duck hunting and every kind of hunting with my dad. The moment I was able to walk, I think, I would follow him around in the woods or in the fields down in the valley hunting pheasants and just tag along. I think at that time you had to be 11 or 12 years old to get a hunting license. And the second I turned that age, I got my guns and was hunting right alongside of my dad. Of course, you know, I'm 12 years old. I can't afford to buy a gun. Well, my dad's best friend was a gunsmith and loaned me a gun, a 30-06. I don't remember the model or the make, but it was a 30-06. And my first deer hunt, we got up in the hills, and I said, Dad, can I have some ammunition? He says, you didn't go buy bullets? No. He says, well, here's one. He says, when we get back to town, you got money, go buy some. One? So from then on at hunting camp, my nickname was Barney, thanks to my dad. And if you young people out there don't know, it's Andy Griffith's show. His deputy was Barney, and he only had one bullet in his pocket.
Yep.
But I was able to put the bullet in the gun, and I did harvest a deer my very first year.
Oh, wow.
And I had to pack it out all by myself. Dad left me.
Yeah.
You shoot it, you pack it.
So that was your the first hunt that you brought meat home?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Maybe talk us through some of the emotions of shooting that first animal.
Oh,
as a small child, you know.
As soon as I picked up the deer, and it was a small forked horn. Forked horn means 2 points on each side. I can remember this day how it tingled every time I took a breath. And of course, my dad was an excellent hunter, and his best friend Rich Cardoza was an excellent hunter. And Rich got me into, even before I was able to hunt, into target shooting at the local club, 22 target shooting. So I knew all the tricks, I guess, tricks of the trade, how to control your breathing and squeeze the trigger. But it was just, I thought my head was going to explode. And then when I watched that deer go down, it was a good, clean kill. The animal didn't suffer. It dropped in its tracks. I thought my chest was going to explode. I made my weapon safe. I set it down, and I just plopped on the ground and just, because the adrenaline, it does some funny stuff to you. And it was just the best feeling in the world until my dad says, you shot it, you pack it out, and he left.
Give a shout out to ASAP Fishing. He's new on here.
Hey, ASAP.
Hello, ASAP.
And to break away from the questions just for a minute, we need to get ASAP on this show. So, ASAP, there's down below in the description of this video, you'll find our email. Contact me on there. I want to put you as a guest in a future upcoming show. Who else we got, Rob?
Well, we still have Sandy and Claude. Jamie Hobbs, come on. She says hi.
Is she a troll?
You should know.
She's not in here talking about bad stuff, is she?
That's Brian's wife.
She's just talking about how hot you are.
Okay. I didn't know if she was trolling us. Okay. So, what was your best trip or your most memorable one?
My most memorable trip. It's funny because that trip I didn't even harvest an animal. I didn't kill. I wasn't out meat hunting. I was coyote hunting. And I saw a coyote. I just didn't shoot him. There's two ways that I like to coyote hunt. Get up on the rock and do the calling. And I don't use those electronic devices. I do it myself. And you see the coyote coming from hundreds of yards away, and you take your shot. And the other way I like to do it is close quarter find a little opening, plop down in a bush and pull the branches around you. And you can use a crossbow, compound bow, a pistol, whatever you want, because it's close. I've shot them very, very close, inside 10 yards. Well, I was making the calls, and the call, for those of you that don't know, is the sound of a wounded rabbit, and it's just screaming. I had this feeling, and anybody that's been into hunting knows the feeling that something's coming in. You don't see it, you don't hear it, just know. So when they get close, and the coyotes get close, you lay off of the loud scream, because then they can pinpoint you. And you go to what we call a squeaker. The squeaker is the sound of a mouse that may be in the bush. Yep, that's it right there. And so I went to the squeaker, and I've got my, I believe it was a shotgun I was hunting with that day, and it was on my lap, and I'm sitting in this sagebrush, and all of a sudden, something hits me in the back of the head, and just lunges me forward. And I pick my head up and I look, and there's this ball of fur. The coyote had jumped into the bush to get that mouse, hit me in the back of the head, and he rolls up, and we're like this far, nose to nose. He stares at me and I stare at him, and there was that shocked look on his face, and I'm sure I had a shocked look. And to this day, that coyote's probably telling his buddy about that big ugly mouse that he ran across. And I'm pretty sure you've all seen fox and coyotes and that do that bouncy thing down. Well, I think that's what he did. He heard that mouse. I was camoed up good, and he slammed me. And I chose not to shoot him as he ran away. I figured that was so cool, I didn't want to ruin the moment. And I got up. I walked back to my pickup, and I always take a thermos of my coyote hunting juice, coffee, cocoa, a little bit of Carolyn's, and a little bit of Kahlua. Don't drink it before the hunt, but afterwards it's okay. I dropped the tailgate of my pickup. I jumped up there, poured me a cup of my coyote juice, and just watched the sun come up. And I bet you I was out there 2-3 hours. And that was my most favorite hunt right there. I really enjoyed that interaction with the wildlife and Mother Nature right there, nose to nose. Sure glad he didn't bite me.
That's awesome. How about your worst?
My worst. I haven't really had too many bad hunts. So can I come back to that one? I'll think about it.
Well,
that's a hard one.
Maybe you didn't have any bad trips, but maybe you had some that maybe you had a flat tire, your vehicle broke down. Maybe a big buck heard something else and he took off running and you missed the shot.
Oh, yeah, I do have a worst. We were in Colorado out by Pagosa Springs, and I took 2 guys with me, amateur hunters, I guess you'd call. One of them, I was teaching him how to hunt. And I explained to him, you want to sit here and watch the game trail there, and watch the game trail there, and watch the game trail there. And I went over on the next ridge and I set up. And I was getting ready to shoot the biggest bull I've ever seen in my life. He was huge. He was way out there. I got into position to make the shot and started making cow calls. And he was way up on the ridge, probably 1,500 yards away. And he heard the call and he turned and he looked. And he was, most of the time when you call bulls in, they just kind of take their time. It takes forever. They just kind of mosey along. And he was slowly coming, and he was almost within range. He was probably about 900 yards. And that friend of mine that I was teaching how to hunt, walked over the ridge and spooked 6 does. And anybody that knows hunting, if you spook a bunch of does, they're going to spook everything else, because they spook for a reason and the elk know why. He turned and he busted brush up and over the ridge, and I never did get a shot. That was heartbreaking, because I spent probably, I don't know, an hour working him on the call, and he was almost in range. And
Wow.
Oh, well, that was probably my worst.
All right, so I've got to ask all our guests that come on the show, how much TV do you watch?
Let us know.
While they're getting ready to type that,
No,
do you have any more questions
no,
for me?
for you, Frank. How much
Oh,
TV? You know, because from what I've seen and what I've experienced, if you spend a lot of time, say you're getting off work, say it's your weekend, you sit down on the couch and you're just sitting there just zoning out to the TV.
yep.
If a person were to shut that off, he would probably find time to go out and find an adventure of some sorts.
Absolutely.
So I'm trying to kind of get a feel for all the guests that come on because they are so active in their adventurous hobbies, and I want to kind of compare that to how much time of TV they watch, kind of compared to how adventurous they are. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does.
Okay. So how
You
much?
really don't know what you're capable of until you go out and do it. The bottom line. And with watching TV, it depends. I'll have a day where I'm just exhausted. I'm getting old, and I work 12 and a half hours a day. And when I have my first day off, usually I just plop down. But if I've got a hunt planned, it kind of gets you all excited. And when I'm at home, yeah, the TV's on, but I'm not in front of it. I'm usually cleaning house or getting ready for a hunt or something. I have a gun room where I reload my own ammunition. I also work on guns. I have friends that their gun breaks, they bring it to me, I fix it. I have a TV in there too. I don't really watch it. It's just for the noise because I live alone. And guys that live alone know that noise is just a background thing. So I'm either reloading ammunition or working on a gun or cleaning house or got some new toy I'm checking out to take out hunting or skydiving or paramotoring or whatever I'm going to do. And I was asked one time, with all the hobbies you have, if you had to give them all up but one, which one would you keep? It would be hunting, because it's just a passion. I was doing it when I was knee high to a grasshopper, and I'll do it to the day I die.
And it fills the freezer.
And it fills the freezer with meat that isn't been injected with hormones and all that other crud.
All right, so this is the time, folks. I've asked my 10 questions. We need some more questions from our audience. So throw those questions out.
Throw them out. Do you mind if I give some fun facts about hunting?
Give us some fun facts.
While we're waiting for some questions.
All right, one minute, Frank. Claude said goodnight. He had to go to bed, and Sandy has left, and she has gone off.
Yeah, I see that.
Work. So,
and my wife.
We're down to three online. So,
and his wife.
And my wife is home. Love you, honey.
Love you, Jamie. Okay, well, we're waiting for some questions. I did some checking on what a lot of people don't realize is that hunters are conservationists. It's our deer herds, our elk herds, the duck population, the pheasant, all of that is because of hunters. And we got some facts that in 1907, only 41,000 elk existed in Northern America. 41,000. That's getting really close to losing the elk herds. Thanks to the money and hard work invested by hunters to restore the elk habitat, today there are more than 1 million elk in North America. That's a big turnaround.
Right.
Thanks to hunters. To hunters. Only 500,000 white-tailed deer remained. Thanks to conservation work spearheaded by hunters, today there are more than 32 million whitetail on count. And now they Fish and Game or Department of Wildlife actually go into areas and kill whitetails because they're just overpopulated. And they don't throw the meat away. They take that meat to like senior citizens or people that need the meat. In the 1900s, only 100,000 wild turkeys remained in the United States. Now, today, 7 million wild turkeys, and all because of hunters. In 1901, very few duck remained in North America. We were going to lose the ducks like mallards and widgeons and that. Thanks to hunters' efforts to restore and conserve wetlands, today there are more than 44 million on count. 1950, only 12,000 pronghorn antelope remained. And thanks to hunters today, there are more than 1.1 million antelope in the western United States. The pronghorn antelope was a big success for a lot of states.
And I know that where I grew up in central Nevada, when I left there was no pronghorn. I went back 10 years later, and they are everywhere.
Yep. Nevada Department of Wildlife has done a fantastic job with the pronghorn, bringing them in to areas, and they've really taken hold.
Yeah.
All right. And what a lot of people don't know, that the hunters actually requested 11% tax on guns, ammo, bow, and arrows. This is hunters asking for this tax. Thanks to the tax, they have raised more than $11 billion for wildlife conservation.
Sweet.
Altogether, hunters pay more than $1.6 billion a year for conservation programs. And in most states, the game wardens, the law enforcement that handles the wildlife and the conservation, is all paid by license and tags. Taxpayers really don't have to fork the bill. We take care of it. So Teddy Roosevelt, who was a avid hunter, created the national forests and grasslands, and forever protected 230 billion acres of wildlife for the public to use. So you might not like people shooting animals, but you got to like what the hunters have contributed to the wildlife and the lands of our great country.
All right. Well, thanks for all that.
You betcha.
All right. So, you do have a couple YouTube channels, right?
Yes, we do.
And explain to me about this old Grumpy character.
Old Grumpy's going to show up live here in a month or two. Old Grumpy is an old geezer that just is grumpy. If you go into the search and go Old Grumpy McDonald's, you'll see Old Grumpy having an issue with the kiosk in the McDonald's store. And we decided that Old Grumpy should come back live. And each show, he'll be complaining and talking to the audience about different things that really tick him off, like traffic, like people, rude people.
I think I need to be friends with him.
Yeah. And why does that picture of the hamburger looks nothing like this hamburger? So Grumpy will show up sooner or later. We're just working out the details on him.
Okay. And then your second channel is Talk Over a Beer Live. Yeah,
that's Rob Hale and I. We have our own, that channel. Just, we don't have a schedule on it. All we have is just, we'll get on whenever, have a beer and just talk about whatever.
Yeah.
The last couple shows, we talked about Bigfoot, ghosts. What else, Rob? What did we talk about?
Beer.
Brian helped on the show, setting up a YouTube channel.
And we'll start out on a subject, but it never stays. It just goes into other things we like to do. And
we just want to have fun.
Well, I know
you just like to have a beer and everybody else have a beer and talk.
Yep.
You guys brought me on a guest a couple of times, and I enjoyed just sitting around drinking a beer and talking with you guys. That was.
I got giggling on that Bigfoot show. I almost didn't stop.
It was fun. We have a good time.
And then you started a blog called, was it Hidden Adventures?
Yeah, I haven't really done much with that because I have a hard time finding the time to type out the stories.
But
I have a lot of stories. I just have a hard time finding time.
You have a secretary.
Mm-hmm.
You have 3 or 4 in there already of stories, right?
Yeah.
Some
yeah,
video?
I do. Yes, I got pictures and typing out stories. Rob and I were avid skydivers, and I believe there's a story on how we got started on that in there. And I don't know, one of my favorite encounters with wildlife was while I was skydiving, believe it or not. I'm a hunter. I love wildlife. I love the outdoors.
Oh, yeah.
And when you combine 2 of your loves, skydiving and wildlife, it's something very special.
Well, let us hear about that one.
Yeah, you want to hear about that one?
You bet.
All right. Well, Rob and I jumped in the plane, and we were skydiving in Caldwell, Idaho. Yeah, I believe it was a 12,000-foot jump. We jumped out of the plane. This was in the fall, late fall. It was a little nippy, and we jumped out. And usually we chuck about 3,000 to 2,000 feet. With me, I enjoy the free fall just as much as I enjoy flying under canopy. It's so peaceful, and you can look across the countryside. Sunset jumps are the best. Well, I was lining up to make my run for landing, and I saw something out of the corner of my eye, and I looked over there, and there's 3 Canadian geese. And there's nothing, you do not want one of those geese to get tangled up in your canopy. And I was just about, I think, about 1,000 feet, and it takes almost 1,000 feet for my reserve to open. So if something happened, I had no option. I had no reserve to go to because I wasn't high enough to get it open. So I made a hard left-hand turn under canopy and got away from him, made a circle, came back to make my leg to land. And again, I caught something in the corner of my eye. And man, I popped my head over. Those 3 geese formed up on me and was flying in formation with me. And I made a turn to the left, they'd follow me. I'd make a turn to the right, they'd follow me. I almost messed up my landing approach because I was watching the geese, was not watching the ground. So I make my downward leg and I come in for a landing, and the geese are locking their wings out and they're going to land with me. And I land, the 3 geese land, and the owner of the drop zone, his wife is going, Frank, Frank. And I go, I know. I turn around, I'm standing there looking at these 3 geese that have landed next to me. And the one comes walking up to me going, gadok, gadok, gadok. Gets about 2 feet from me and realizes this ain't no goose. Turns around and goes, gawk, 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 and they took off. Everybody that skydives for, I don't know what it is, but we all have cameras. We have them on our helmets. We have them on our hands. People on the ground have got cameras. For some reason that day, nobody had a camera rolling. And we didn't get it on film, but I think back on it, that was between me and those 3 geese. Didn't need film. It's all up here. Rob was there. He saw it.
Oh, yeah.
Coolest thing you ever saw is to fly with the geese.
Yep.
That's my funnest story.
It reminds me of that movie, Fly Away Home.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, Frank, is there any other hunting stories that you want to tell, or you want to jump into some of your other adventurous hobbies?
Yeah, there's one story I'd like to tell.
Okay.
Mostly it's about my brother. We went up hunting. My brother wasn't old enough to hunt, but I was. So I went out, and it's in Northern California. And usually what we did is we knew the country really well. So we would put somebody up on the rock that overlooked the glades. So while we were walking, if we'd spooked any deer out running up in front of us, the person on the rock would have a shot. So I was out with my dad making the circle, and my brother was up on the rock with my grandpa. Well, Tony had his BB gun, and Tony was going, when we come through the trees into the glade, we were walking up to the rock, and the first thing he saw, Tony dive off the rock and running down the hill. And my dad asked my grandpa, says, "Where's Tony going?" "Hey, he's gone to get that dang BB gun." Apparently, my brother was bored and was going, pop, 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 ping, pop, 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 ping. And Grandpa kept telling, "Knock it off. You're making too much noise. Knock it off. You're making too..." Finally, he grabs it. Down the hill it goes. And that was one of the funniest things I ever saw. It's a good memory of my brother.
Oh, you bet.
So that was a good hunting story.
Heck yeah.
All right. So what other adventurous type hobbies did you say you had?
Yeah, well, we covered a little bit skydiving.
Right.
And Rob and I have traveled around to different drop zones. And I've also brought in family members like you to do a skydive with me. And my niece, Tisa, I gave her 2 jumps as a gift from graduating from Chico State.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I know Rob has taken his sister or his daughter.
My daughter.
Yeah.
My wife.
Daughter. The wife. Yeah, that's right.
My stepson and some nephew. Yeah, it's a fun thing.
One of the fun stories when we were skydiving was we were doing a charity weekend. And how many tandems did we do that weekend, Rob? There's a couple.
The first day we put on 154 harnesses. The first day.
154 jumps, and the part of the money was going to diabetes research.
Yep.
So we were all pretty much working for free. And after that was all done, of course, we're exhausted because it's not that easy work. We're sitting around the drop zone, and the big rule at drop zones, if they have any common sense, is no alcohol until everybody's done. At Caldwell, if you walked in with a beer and you were one of the jumpers, the drop zone closed. Nobody else could jump. So it was good on the safety, but we were all done. So we were all sitting around having a few beers. And a friend of ours by the name of Jen, and we're trying to get her on the show because she skydives, speed flies, paramotors, paragliding, scuba. She does everything. She was into, I think she was doing hair, a beautician.
Yep.
But she really wanted to bleach our hair for some reason. We were a little tipsy. But, of course, you're not going to get much bleaching going on this head. So she bleached my mustache that came down like this, and then a stripe right there. Rob got his head bleached. Well, unfortunately, that was just a couple weeks before I hopped on a plane and went to Germany. Now, I have a face that doesn't look anything like my passport.
Yep.
So at customs, if you want to know what the back offices look like, I can tell you.
We also had that other guy jumping with it that was a pilot, a commercial pilot for a big airline, and he almost lost his job over doing his hair.
Oh, wow.
They had a strict policy on the way pilots have to look, and he had his hair bleached, and they didn't like it. And that would have been that. Oh, I can't even remember his name now. I know he helped me on the learning process.
Yeah, he was a coach for you for a while.
Yep.
Yeah. He also had a 2-seater helicopter we jumped out of.
Oh yeah.
He'd take you up, and I said, "Man, that jumping out of the helicopter is cool." He said, "You ought to be in the helicopter when your 240 pounds gets out of the helicopter." He said it's like a rodeo trying to keep that.
It can get you quite sick. It can cause pneumonia. It can cause all kinds of other infections. I want to know that a person has it before they're even sick.
That ain't here.
Excuse me. Fox News decided I needed to watch. I don't know how the heck that come on by itself.
Yeah, I asked him after he'd landed. I said, "Hey, did you see my exit?" And he's like, "I can't watch you guys leave. I'm too busy trying to control this thing."
He said it was a rodeo.
Oh man, it was just a little helicopter. I mean, when me or Frank was in it, it took forever for it to get up to altitude. He was a tiny one. It did it.
What about how about a story of your scuba diving trip?
Scuba diving. Well, I do open water shark dives too. And what got me started on that? Oh, I know one I should tell you. A friend of mine, Lonnie, we were still in high school, and we got our diving certificates like sophomore, junior year. And it was a Friday. We got out of school. We both had jobs, so we had to go take care of a couple hours of work. And then we took the girlfriends to a meeting, a movie, and we have the trunk of his Super Bee loaded up with all our scuba gear. So we take the girlfriends to the movies, and then we take them home, and we head to Fort Bragg, California. And to get there on Highway 20, you got to go up the Mendocino National Forest. And there was a heck of a storm. There was no light from the moon, stars. It was dark. It was one of those nights. I'm sure everybody has seen one where if you shut everything off, all the lights off, you wouldn't be able to see your hand this far in front of you. Mm-hmm. But having a full day of school and work and then the movies, we were about halfway there, and I don't remember. It's about what, Brian, you've taken that road, about 4-hour drive?
Yeah, 3-hour
right.
drive. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, about 4-hour drive. Well, we were about halfway there, so we were up on the high elevation in Mendocino National Forest, and we were just exhausted. So there was a wide pull out. Lonnie pulls his Super Bee over, and we're going to get a couple hours sleep before we head out. So I'm leaning back, and my head's cocked off to the side, and I'm looking into the darkness. And all of a sudden, a strike of lightning hit, and it was like noon, 12 o'clock noon. It just lit everything up. The lightning was really close. And in that flash of lightning, I saw about a 10-foot tall, 2-legged creature standing there staring at me. Of course, I'm going, okay, I'm awake. I'm not dreaming. And I'm staring at that spot waiting for the next lightning strike. And kaboom, another lightning strike, and it's still there. So I grabbed Lonnie and I said, Lonnie, look right there. Lightning struck again. He's, oh, Jesus. It struck again, and it's still there. So he starts the Super Bee up, puts it in gear, and we speed off. Well, we make it to Fort Bragg. Of course, we didn't have any problem staying awake from that point all the way to Fort Bragg. And we got a little bit of sleep, and we went out scuba diving. And that was my first encounter that weekend after seeing that big creature, which everybody knows what we call those big, tall creatures. I had my first encounter with a great white shark. It was a ways off to where I knew what it was, but you really couldn't see a lot of detail because the water was a little murky, but you could see out the outline, and I knew enough about sharks that I knew what it was. And I've gone through the training. At that time, Lonnie and I had enough hours of training to become dive masters. We just had to go through the process. And what they taught you, if you come into an encounter with a shark like that, back up to a rock or put your back to the floor of the bottom of the ocean. And that way they can't come up behind you. If they come at you, they're going to come straight at you. And then most sharks have got to turn their head to bite. And if they do that, you take the butt of your knife and push them away. You don't want to cut them because that's just going to tick them off. And now you got blood in the water. So we backed up to the rock and kind of watched this shadow out there swimming around, then finally it left, and we headed in. But on the way home, we knew where we had stopped and seen this creature, and we knew that creature was not going to be in the same spot. It was long gone, but you know that anticipation of where we saw it. Well, we crested the ridge, and there's that turnout, and it was Sunday before dark on our way home, and there it was. The creature was still there. It was a carved Bigfoot statue in front of a tourist trap. And we just kind of looked at each other and went,
Let's not tell nobody about this one.
Right? Now you just put it on YouTube.
Yeah.
I was so
40 years ago.
That was longer than 40.
All right, guys. Well, we're pushing the hour. I think we're going to call it a night. Unless you guys have something to add real quick. The panel members, the guest.
Rob lost his cabin.
Frank, you got anything to add real quick?
No,
Okay.
I really enjoyed the show. I'm
Cool.
honored that you picked me to be your very first guest on the show. It means a lot to me, you know.
Yeah.
For all you guys out there, if your son is proud enough to have you as his first guest, it means a lot. And I was honored. And I'm looking forward to helping you with the other guests.
Yeah. Thank you. It's gonna be a lot of fun. How about you, Rob?
Oh, I had a good time. It was pretty good. So I got some orbs going behind me. I think I got some ghosts coming.
You're fading in and out of this dimension.
Oh no.
So in the description down below, I got all the links for Frank, his 2 YouTube channels. He's got some great funny stories on his little blog channel there, the Hidden Adventures. Check them out. If you haven't already, subscribe to X Country Adventures, this channel here. Give us a thumbs up. It helps. And also ring the little bell next to the subscribe. That will notify you when we're going to be having our next show next week.
And watch for Old Grumpy.
Yes. A couple of shout outs to the folks in the chat. One is Adventure Cycling with Claude. He's got some pretty neat content. And I believe it's drone effects with Claude.
Yep.
Check him out. If you want a place just to go in and listen to some guys chat, just some general chat, go check his channel out.
I did at 5:00 this morning.
He's got some streams in there that will last 5-6 hours, and he brings guys on his channel, and they just chat it up. And then the other one is ASAP Fishing 1. A younger gentleman that actively, it looks like he does quite a bit of fishing. Is good with the camera, good with editing. Check his channel out as well. Frank, I think we need to get him on the show. And
I think so too.
I hope he contacts us in the email down below.
What I like about this young man, Brian, is that he's young enough. Most guys his age are sitting in front of the TV playing video games. And he's out there fishing and enjoying life. And good for you, ASAP.
And that's the kind of guy we need on this show to inspire others of his age that they need to get out there and do that kind of stuff too.
Yes, absolutely.
All right. Well, that's it for tonight's show. And we are going to move on to our post-show offline. So panel members and guests, don't go anywhere. For all of you watching, I wish you all the best. Now get out there and find your own cross-country adventure. Good night, all.
Bye.